dance.
All right. We got Johhny Boy live here today. How you doing, Johhny Boy?
Good, man. What's going on, brother?
Very good, sir. Very good. Listen, we're going to have a couple of hot topics today. First one I want to talk about is something that 95% of the students who walk through Fred Astaire dance studios and probably most dance studios across the country, what they say, hey, how long will it take for me to be a good, comfortable, confident social dancer?
You hear that a lot?
And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to give you an answer of how long that takes, because that's a little bit of a journey, isn't it, Johhny Boy?
It's quite a journey.
So here's the thing. Here's where I'm getting at. So everybody comes from a different background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And based on where you're coming from, that's like step one of the analysis of how long it's going to take for you to become a good, confident social dancer.
Definitely.
As we like to say. Because if you have some sort of dance experience outside of ballroom, for example, jazz, tap, even hip hop, you've got some experience with musicality. You've got some experience with moving your body.
Yeah.
Some more than others, but you're not completely foreign to the idea.
Not at all. Because, speaking of being foreign in the dancing, I thought ballroom dancing was the name of the dance.
Are you serious?
I was. I came in. I remember coming in and I was like, oh, I'm on a ballroom dance. That's what I'm going to do. And then I learned there was like 13 to 18 different dances.
Oh, so you thought ballroom dance was the dance?
I thought that was the dance.
Oh, wow. Interesting. What dance did you think it was?
That's a great question. I don't know. I was like, ballroom dance. Like, it's one dance.
But in your head, did you picture like...
There was no picture.
There was no picture. You had no idea what that dance was.
I probably should have looked it up before coming in the studio.
That's fair enough.
But,
all right. So ballroom dancing is a specific form of dancing.
So if you already have more than that experience, you can definitely dance. Because if I can do that, then you can do that.
That's right. But yeah, if you have some sort of experience, unlike Johhny did when he started, you're going to be a little bit further ahead of the game as far as how long it's going to take you to be a good, confident social dancer in the ballroom world.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that second to dance experience is playing a musical instrument.
Sure.
Because if you play the guitar, for instance, or even the piano, you're good with timing. You can hear the music. You can count the numbers. So that plays a big role in dancing because there's a lot of people, specifically couples, and usually the gentlemen who they can't quite hear the music, so they have a hard time leading. Mm-hmm. So if you played a musical instrument, you have a little bit of a head start.
You have a way big head start.
Big head start. Yeah, absolutely. So with those two factors kind of factored in, the third one I go to, and this is maybe not in the order, is any type of sports background.
For sure.
Athletic background. If you played tennis, baseball, football, wrestling, anything.
Golf's a good one.
Golf. That's right. I know you were a wrestler.
I know
right?
Some people might say golf's not a sport, but they're wrong.
Golf is a sport, absolutely.
Some people don't.
Well, you don't really always get like a cardiovascular workout. Oh, if you're walking. If you're walking, that does burn some calories. Mm-hmm. But if you've got the sports background, what you've got is a little bit of that hand-eye coordination. You've got this is how I move my shoulders, this is how I take a step, this is how I turn my trunk. So you've actually kind of learned somewhat of how to move your body and coordinate. And that can be directly translated into ballroom dance.
Yeah.
Now, if you got a good teacher who's kind of educated on how to teach Fred Astaire dance studios, if you find out from your student, which you should, their background of sports, what the teacher should and can do is relate their sport to ballroom dancing to make it easier to learn the technique of dancing. That's a separate subject. But so those three things. So we talked about dance experience, music experience, playing an instrument, and then sports background. If you have any of those three, in my opinion, you have a little bit of a jump start.
You do.
And how quickly you're going to learn ballroom dancing. Now, let's say that I have no experience in any dancing. Mm-hmm. I've never played an instrument in my life. I can't hear a beat to save my life. I can't count music to save my life.
We've all been there.
And I've never played sports. And I'm completely unathletic. Can I still learn how to ballroom dance?
That is a no.
That's absolutely not. Do not walk into the studio.
No, I'm just kidding. No, of course. And you know what? and I wanted to bring back to this, not because you did say that some of those people with the music and dance background can have definitely a benefit. But I will say there has been some times where having that background can be sometimes a little tougher, meaning that because you've grown into a certain dance or you're used to doing certain things with your legs or your body, there are some times where you have to retrain some of that muscle memory. That's kind of the only, that's, I would say, the only downfall, but, that's very rare, and it's pretty easy to kind of retrain your body after that. So actually, sometimes coming in it with zero experience can actually be better because you're training from a foundation of nothing, which actually can help. So
that's a good point. So like we've seen that where we've had maybe like Latin dancers or purely salsa dancers come into the studio, and they're like, I've been dancing salsa my whole life, and they've got the two bent knees and the feet are kind of sloppy. They're not really positioned. The foot positions aren't quite the way we teach it in ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
And if I've been dancing that since I was a little kid and I've been doing it for 30, 40 years, you're 100% right. How hard is it to get that person to straighten their legs?
Yeah.
It's darn near impossible. And then, they add a little extra kick and flip because that's how they did it, their own style. It's hard to get away from. And that's not wrong, but it's just in the ballroom dancing, when we're trying to do certain dances and do the proper technique, it is wrong in that sense.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, again, it's good to have that experience, but yeah, it can probably even get a little frustrating to where we're teaching it somewhat differently, but, either way.
So, yeah, most of the time it's a benefit. In the rare case like that one, yeah, it could hurt you a little bit. I guess, too, like, I think, and this happens once every so many years with a student walking through the door, but they also think they kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
Almost a little bit better, where, like, they're very confident, which is great. You need confidence in ballroom dancing, but maybe they were like a cheerleader or they were a stud a swing dancer.
Yep.
So they kind of have their way of doing it, and you're trying to teach them and instruct them to do it the proper ballroom way, but they're just kind of like stuck in their own way. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, if you're not going to listen to the instruction, I can't make you much better.
No.
It's almost like, why'd you come here if you're just going to tell me how to do it?
Well, exactly. That's like us, or, myself going to a golf instructor, right? Like, I played some golf. I'm not the best ever, getting better. But that's like me trying to tell the golf instructor what I need to do.
Right.
And there would be no point for me to do that because that's why I'm going to the instructor. I need help. Right. So.
Right. But yeah, so anyways, most of the time it is an advantage to have those backgrounds. But let's say you have no experience. And as you already stated, that could actually be a good thing because, as we call it, you're starting with a clean palette, and we get to write and teach everything from the very beginning, the proper way to do things. And we do it in stages so that we guarantee success. You learn it the right way. And then, boom, when the time comes, which we're going to talk about, you're ready to be a good, confident social dancer. Yeah. So let's just say I have no experience. We're coming in with that. How long does it take for me, let's say me and my wife, to be able to go out to a wedding, to a salsa club, to just, an event where there's dancing? How long will it take for me to gain the confidence and look good out there on the dance floor in front of people?
It's a good question. I will give you a timeline here in a second, but the biggest thing that I always see, you can change your own timeline, meaning that the more you come in, whether the more lessons you take, the more group classes you take, or, we also host Friday night parties, which kind of mocks that environment of a social environment. You come to all three, or you really kind of dive yourself into this skill and activity. I mean, you're looking... Probably, if you can do that maybe 2-3 times a week, you're probably looking at a good year and a half to really start to feel confident and, go out to the weddings and not feel scared to go on the dance floor. But on the other side of that, let's say you're coming once a week, no group classes, no Friday night party, maybe once every other week. And I get that this is people's hobby. And so, it feels like, oh, I'm just coming in for a little bit. But, if that's your goal of wanting to be a better dancer faster, you're going to want to come in more. And honestly, to I won't say risk because it's a great time, but to come in a lot for like a whole year to learn a skill like that you can keep for the rest of your life, I think that's an important thing that you should think about when trying to learn to dance. Like, is this is this something I can dive in or not? I mean, not saying you won't be a good dancer if you did once a week, but it's going to take longer. That's all.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like anything else. The more time you put into it,
yep.
the more lessons you have, the more parties you go to, the more group classes, the quicker you're going to pick up the dancing, the quicker you're going to become a good, confident social dancers.
Yep.
What we like to tell students in our Fred Astaire dance studios is, in 6 to 12 months, you're going to start to feel pretty confident if you're coming minimum twice a week.
For sure.
Attending the parties and at least one group class a week.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about 3-4 40-minute sessions at least, surrounded by some sort of dance learning, which we do in the private lessons, practice, which we do in the group classes, and then the actual real life settings of being at the parties is very important, trying to apply that. So all three are important. So if you're doing that, usually in about 6 to 12 months, you're going to start to feel a little bit more confident.
For sure.
Because what's going to happen is teacher's going to take you through those programs, take you through the beginner program, take you through the social foundation, get you into the bronze where we really start to teach you some of the points that's going to make you start to move your body, which is why we call bronze a body-based program.
Yep.
Get you to start to move your body to the point where it's going to start to feel like, okay, this feels kind of right. I feel like I'm moving. You feel like you're dancing.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. Now, you say, okay, well, that, some people are probably listening like, no, it takes a lot longer than that. Yes.
We have nobody listening.
Oh, nobody's listening? Okay. Maybe a couple of our students. It takes a lot longer than that. Well, yeah, it does take a lot longer than that, depending on how good you want to be.
Exactly.
If I want to be one of the best social dancers out there, if I want to be still in the spotlight and I want to be fancy and polished, yeah, of course. Then you go on to the next level of bronze and the next level of bronze. Then you get to silver, so on and so forth. You're always polishing and getting better in ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
But to go from absolutely, I have no experience, I don't know my left foot to right foot, I don't know. I thought ballroom dancing was the dance. To go from that to like, hey, I can get around the floor. I can hear this song. I can lead my wife around. I can lead this woman around the floor and feel somewhat confident and better about myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be about 6 to 12 months coming in and putting in the reps.
Yeah.
Just like anything else, it's like...
Yeah, if you're trying to learn, how to play a guitar, if you're doing that 40 minutes a week, it's going to take you quite a bit. You start doing that multiple times a week, 30 minutes here, 40 minutes there, an hour here. I mean, you're just going to learn it faster, just like anything else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, so when I'm talking to people about this, because it's usually about the third lesson, we do a planning of just kind of like, here's the programs that are going to come before you, mm-hmm. and here's the timeline, and here's the cost. And usually I have a little different speech with each person because I need to know the person who's in front of me.
Exactly.
So again, if I have somebody in front of me who used to be a cheerleader and they were one of the stunts, the ones doing the flips mm-hmm. and the acrobats, and they're very coordinated, doing all this stuff, I'm going to speak to her a little differently as far as her expectations on this next 6 months to a year, as I am going to talk to Mrs. Jones, who's never danced before, but maybe has always been her dream. But, at the time, her mom couldn't afford it. She had to go to school. Then she had to go straight to work. Then she raised a family. And now finally she's got time to come and learn how to dance. And she's got no experience. Well, again, those are some of the most enjoyable students to teach because they're just kind of like, what do I learn? You teach them everything from the beginning. Exactly. But there's a different expectation of where she's going to be at in 6 to 12 months than there is from the cheerleader.
Of course.
So there's going to be different levels, and there should be different levels, and that's okay. Yeah. And I'm going to say that's okay to Mrs. Jones because Mrs. Jones, look where you're coming from. Yeah, Johhny Boy, look where you're coming from. You thought ballroom dancing was ballroom dancing. Mm-hmm. You thought that was a dance. You've learned the name of the different dances. You can follow any of the instructors in the studio. Mm-hmm. You know the timing. You know the basics of your footwork. You know how to move your body. You even got your arms moving before. Remember when you first came in and you didn't even know what to do with your arms? They look like
the arms are the hardest. They really are the hardest.
A couple of bricks. Well, we've worked on it. So it really depends, again, who's in front of you, where they're coming from. And I think all of the examples are perfectly okay. But I think a major fault of some of the teachers is not having that conversation and explaining the expectations of where they're going to be in 6 to 12 months. Because perhaps Mrs. Jones was watching that young girl who was a cheerleader before out there start when she started, mm-hmm. and now she's out there killing it, doing open routines and whatnot. And I got Mrs. Jones here still struggling to rotate the hips, and she goes, well, what the heck?
Yep.
How come she's better than I am? I guess maybe one, you're not teaching me, you're holding back the teacher, or I can't do this. I shouldn't have done this. This is embarrassment. I knew I couldn't have done this. I quit.
Yep.
And that's pretty understandable if the teacher doesn't talk about the expectations way beforehand.
Expectations are huge.
Because now try to answer that after she brings it up, and after she already saw that girl dancing that good, and then I saw a video of myself dancing, and I don't move my hips half as well as that girl. Now try to explain why that is after 6 months or a year of dancing.
Yep.
That's hard to do.
Right. So I was just going to make an analogy to the point where it's the same thing where, again, let's say I go to a golf instructor, and my goal, at least, and specifically, is trying to hit the ball straight. I've never been able to hit the ball straight consistently at all. So I go in there, let's say, I start doing a lesson or two. I tell him, hey, this is what I want to do. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he just teaches me. And let's say I'm on like the 8th lesson now, and I'm still not hitting it straight. I'm questioning him because I'm wondering, like, well, how long is this going to take for me to hit the ball straight? Oh, well, now I'll tell you. It's going to take another. I'm like, well, it would have been nice to know a timeline beforehand. And again, I know you can't give a specific, hey, this is when you're going to hit the ball straight. But just like what we said, 6 months to a year, depends how much you do it, year and a half, little things like that. So, to go back to you, just having those expectations as a teacher ourselves and for the students to be aware of, knowing what to expect.
And, something to kind of check that, because the teachers, especially in the Fred Astaire system, they know they're certified and trained in how to teach students and get them through each program, because they themselves had to take more extensive exams in those programs, so they know the steps and patterns inside and out. But also, there's certain things they have to cross off as they're teaching somebody how to dance, specifically in the bronze. We talk about the 28-point sheet where there's 28 different points we cover that make up a good social dancer. We got to make sure we're covering that and getting to that. And sometimes as a teacher, to no fault of our own, we're getting lost in the lesson. We get focused on one or two of those elements. For example, just the hip action, and 4 or 5 lessons go on and we're just working on hips. We've neglected the footwork. We've neglected even talking about arms. We forgot about the music. We forgot about frame, all these different things. And that's why it's very important to check yourself, but also to have a buddy teacher who you're communicating with. To buddy teacher is when you have 2 teachers teaching 1 student. We alternate. So for example, for those viewers who don't know, if we have a student, Mrs. Jones, I teach her on one lesson, the next lesson you teach her. We're in constant communication of what we covered. Okay, Johhny, I covered a little bit of hips. You can review that with her, but make sure you talk a little bit more about the arms. All right, and then vice versa on the next one. Okay, I'm going to review that, and I also want to introduce a little bit of the posture, because she's starting to bring her shoulders down a little bit. So there's many of those different points you have to have. Then on top of that, what we have is a bronze manager come out and do progress checks to see where they're at. Another person coming out going, okay, let me see how you're doing in the rumba. And they just watch each of their major dances that they're dancing. Then that manager comes out and they go, okay, everything looks good. You know what? Why don't we start to focus a little bit more on X, Y, and Z in her dancing? For example, her connections. Or let's talk about keeping her eyes up. So that's another checkpoint that's great about the Fred Astaire system. It's such a great team, is that there's multiple people checking and monitoring your dancing to guarantee the success.
Exactly.
So that's why we can proudly and confidently say in X amount of time, and like I'm saying 6 to 12 months, we can make you a confident social dancer, because we've got a team that's working together to make sure that you have the success, that you get through everything that you need to get through to enable that statement that we're giving to be true.
Definitely.
And that is really why I think it's special to be a part of our system, because we have that team. Now, if I was working on my own, it's still possible, but I could miss things. I could get caught up in my own thoughts, caught up in my own thinking. I could get caught up in, we've got to get just the timing down. And now I'm working on timing on one specific part of that rumba for the next 10 lessons. Right? And that's 1/5 of my bronze program. Or 1/5, no. So 50 lessons. So now I don't have enough time to get through the other concepts. And what happens when you start working on one little thing over and over and over and over again?
With it gets kind of boring.
It gets very boring
for both the instructor and the student.
Yes, and it gets probably annoying for the teacher, and then annoying for the student. And it gets boring. And guess what? we're not having fun anymore. And if we're not having fun, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you.
No one wants to come if you're not having fun.
No, it's a little too expensive not to have fun.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the gist of it is, 6 months to 6 to 12 months, and with the proper guidance, which you're going to have in the Fredicere system, because again, the teachers are trained. You've got a team working towards getting you towards your goals. And with the, like you said, you coming in often enough. Now let's say that you come in every day, and you come to every group class.
Which I did when I first started.
That's right, you did. And now we're talking a couple of months, 2 to 3 months. All of a sudden, you're dancing comfortably and confidently.
Sure.
So you could really get it as fast as you want to get it. It really depends on how much time you put into it, just like anything else.
Exactly, I agree.
All right, well, I think we're pretty much... I was expecting him to carry me a little bit while I got a drink. He said, exactly. Indubitably. All right, well, thanks for joining me, Johhny Boy.
Thanks, yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Music playing right now would be pretty cool because it's fading out.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Slow.
How we rock and roll.
All right, that's how we do. Tune in next time for our next topic, which is going to be whatever it's going to be when we see you. See you when I see you.
See ya.